Hi, I'm Jay and welcome to Poor Man's Twitch. Today we're going to be talking about 5 things new Twitch streamers need an aptitude for. Number 1, social media. Let's face it, Twitch itself is a form of social media. Twitch has a profile picture, you have your username, you can even make status updates at this point. So you really have to understand the simple things. For instance, usernames. Now I unfortunately picked myself a silly username. I was just trying to be more professional, but in the end, it becomes boring. You want to set yourself aside from everyone else, so you pick yourself something interesting, rather than Deem JD. Whatever you pick, it's got to stick in people's heads. You also want to find yourself a good profile picture, because that's the face everybody's going to see. Now I gotta give it to my buddy Rob. He picked a really interesting picture to put out there, but I myself want to look a little more professional, so I put myself out there with a headshot. Anyways, Rob picked a really nice picture that just kind of stands out, shows he has a sense of humor, and is a little bit weird. So someone might look at the picture and go, yeah, I want to watch that guy. There's also a multitude of other social media aspects that can help you out vastly in this game. For instance, Twitter. Twitter is one of the most basic elements you should understand as a Twitch streamer. A lot of times it's a really good way to communicate with your followers. If you encourage them to follow you on Twitter, you can tell them, hey, I'm not going to be able to stream today, or hey, I'm about to stream in 5 seconds. You can also even automatically have it tell people when you're streaming and leave a link up to say, hey, I'm about to stream, which is pretty freaking sweet. Finally, YouTube. YouTube is probably one of the more interesting things because it is now a competitor to Twitch, but it still has a few good setups. For instance, you can automatically send your highlighted videos from Twitch, leftover streams, and put it directly onto YouTube. Now, this is a bit of a fidgety setup, but you can still make it work. On top of that, you can also set up in your YouTube videos to say when you are streaming and leave a link there to which they can click on it and go directly to your stream. So all they got to do is click, boom, and they're watching this guy that they just saw on YouTube stream. Number 2, technical aptitude. Now this is a bit of a given, but you might be surprised by all the issues you run into trying to stream. The first thing you got to understand is your rig, your computer setup. If you don't have this, it's going to be a little hard to stream. Now, if you have an Xbox One or PS4, it's not as bad, but you still have to really understand what you're doing, because if not, you're going to be putting out, well, garbage. So, one of the things that you have to understand is your computer. Can it even handle streaming? Now, if you're watching this, you probably have a junker like me, and you're probably trying to get all the help you can get. So yeah, you have to understand your computer, anywhere from your processor to upgrading your memory, any type of that stuff. The more work you put into your computer, the more likely you're going to have a really good stream and people are going to say, yes, I want to watch this person. On top of that, the other thing you really have to understand is settings. Settings for games, settings for streaming. I mean, it can go anywhere from going into your normal Twitch streaming broadcasting programs that are pretty well cut and dry and show you exactly how to do everything, to your more intimidating but very free ones. For instance, OBS is the program to download. If you're not using OBS, you're being silly and you're spending way too much money or time on something. But it can be very intimidating to open up OBS for the first time because you're like, it doesn't tell me anything to do. It doesn't tell me a single thing, but it's still so useful, but you have to understand all the settings. Now, I'm just gonna lay this out there right now. The best way to gain an aptitude for any of this stuff, Google. YouTube and Google. That, my friend, is where all the bread and butter is for this. It's so easy to just Google something, and sometimes it's right there for you. Sometimes you gotta search a little bit longer. For instance, capture cards, all that technology and stuff, to get it to work, you really have to research the crap out of it. For instance, I had my own USB capture card for streaming component setups. Now, the thing about this is it looked like garbage for the longest time, and then one day I found the settings holy grail for it. I had to research to the corners of YouTube to find this, but once I found it, I did not regret it. It looked great. But hey, it's still one of those things that you have to have an aptitude for. How to research those things, how to find those things, and ultimately how to make them work. It could be also something as simple as one of your games won't read on your computer, and then you have to figure out, what am I doing wrong, or what is wrong with my computer that makes it to where it will not work. Number 3, balance. It can be very difficult to balance everything when it comes to being a Twitch streamer. Now, one of the biggest things is time. Time is actually the most complicated thing to really factor into this, especially if you're like me and you have a full-time job and a part-time job and another smaller kind of hobby job and other hobbies and interests and a wife. Now, the biggest thing is you still should make some time if you really want to make this work. But it comes down to something as simple as you need to set up a schedule. Now, this schedule, you should at least put in about 2 hours, 3 times a week to really commit to this. And that's at bare bones minimum. Now, 2 hours, 3 times a week makes it to where you actually appear onto the scroll page whenever people are looking through games, which becomes a very difficult thing. Now, on top of that, balancing all of your time, you really need to be able to balance money. Money is huge. Now, this is poor man's Twitch, not broke man's Twitch. So you have to understand you have to be able to invest into certain things. For instance, you really need a decent microphone. Now, I myself found one for about $70. Yeah, if you really want to, you can put down $150, $200, sometimes $300. Heck, if you're crazy, you can put down $1,000 on a really good microphone. But me, I put out about $70, and you're listening to the microphone right now. Originally, I was using my own headset, and people were like, yeah, your audio is not the greatest, but I got over it and I worked with it. So I really got to say, you got to put down a little bit of money. You should also put in some money to upgrading your rig. You should have the max amount of memory your computer have. You should also have the best processor your computer can handle, because I was running off a 2-core for a little while, and then I realized with my technical aptitude that really wasn't working very well for me. Even trying to stream, yeah, I'm working on a max quad core with 8 gigs of memory. That's about the best I can do. You also really want to be able to invest in a decent graphics card, because as much help as you can get with a junker clunker like mine, it helps a lot. Number 4, standing out. Now, this is one of the things. If you want to make it as a Twitch streamer, or you really even want to stream, you definitely want people to watch you. Now, I myself do this for 2 reasons. One, yeah, I'd like the money someday. Right now, it's not coming in, but it's not really a big deal, because the other 2, and this is the most important reason, and if you're not doing it for this reason, everyone agrees you really shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't do it just for the money. You should do it because you love it, and you love the social aspect. I like talking to people when I play video games. In fact, I feel pretty lonely when I don't. But I also don't like playing with other people because I don't do so well in games. So typically people get kind of frustrated because they're like, wow, you are really bad at this. So I kind of like talking to people while I play video games, which is why I stream. So you want people to be able to actually come and see your page. So what do you have to do? You have to stand out. Talked a little bit about finding a good username that'll stick with people, and also having a good profile picture. But there's another thing that really stands out, and that's when you're scrolling through the games, you want to have a good thumbnail. Now, I myself designed my page specifically to look very particular, so people are like, wow, that's a nice thumbnail that stands out and looks great. A few things you really need: a webcam. When people see that you have a webcam, then they can see your reactions. That's going to attract them further. On top of that, you're going to want to set certain things up in your layout. If you put your chat in there, they know you're making an effort and you have a technical aptitude. On top of that, the second thing they're going to look at is your title. Your title for your stream is huge. It can convey a lot of information, and it convey the type of gamer that you are. Now, if you're a professional FPS type of person, that's great. That works for you. So you kind of want to lay out your title to show that you know what you're talking about and you're not a dingleberry. But if you're like me and you're like a comedic gamer that just wants to react in fun ways, you can come up with silly titles that convey this guy has a sense of humor. So then you can lay out certain things. Finally, the last thing, and this is the most difficult, because you do want to play games because you enjoy them, but if you're going to be playing the brand new games that come out immediately, well, you're gonna have some problems, because you're gonna be at the bottom of 100 people playing list. So you want to pick out a game that someone might want to watch. For instance, when Grand Theft Auto 5 was at its prime, which it still is, by the way, a lot of people were playing Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I myself wasn't able to play that at the time, so I was playing Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, a lot of people popped into my stream with one simple question: why? why are you playing Grand Theft Auto 3 right now when Grand Theft Auto 5 is out? I myself answered with the question, well then why are you watching me? Which is a very interesting idea. A lot more people would watch me play Grand Theft Auto 3 than if I even tried streaming Grand Theft Auto 5, because there's so many people playing that game still today. So your choice of game really matters in this aspect and can really make or break how many viewers you're going to get. You also want to be able to vary your type of games, because some people are going to watch one thing while others are going to watch something completely different. For instance, I'd also play Zelda, and the Zelda people would show up on a certain day to watch me play Zelda, and the Grand Theft Auto people would show up and watch me play Grand Theft Auto. Sometimes they would cross over and watch me play different games, but they specifically came for one thing. So also vary your games. Don't play one specific game at the same time. That's what it comes to attracting people and standing out. Finally, and this is sort of the last step, you're gonna get people to your page one day, but you have to do one very specific thing. You have to have an aptitude for engaging your audience. Now, there's two extremes to this that really create a bit of an issue for some people, but for me, it's actually a lot of fun and kind of interesting. This is the part where I get to perform. So this is where I have the most fun. Let's start with the further issue, the issue you're going to deal with second, because the first issue is more interesting. So the second issue you're going to run into is the dream where you run into way too many people on your chat at the same time. Now this comes from starting at the beginning. The beginning is when you actually get people into your chat and they start talking to you. You want to engage them and build a relationship with them. If you start building a relationship with enough people, they will have your back. For instance, I've got my buddy Jake and Berries, and Jake and Berries is my rock. Yeah, this guy's got my back. He pops into my stream quite regularly to entertain me as I'm playing, so I feel pretty good about that. But Jake and Berries also plays sort of a moderator in my chat. So whenever people are sort of dropping crap at me or getting sassy with me, Jake and Berries drops in to defend me and really has my back, and that's because I built a relationship with him. Also, whenever there's a lot of people kind of asking a lot of questions and you're not able to address everything at once, those people that you build a relationship with can be the people that sort of help answer them. They've probably heard the answers 1,000 times. So one of the things I like to do is whenever someone pops into my stream, I like to ask them a question. My first question is always, what's your top 5 favorite games? And then I rattle mine off. And then we start talking about those games, and it becomes a relationship builder. Those are some key ideas to just throw out there and really build a relationship. Talk about video games. And then you can start talking about life and stuff like that. So you start building a relationship with all these people, and it becomes a key part to what is so important about streaming. Now we're going to go back to the first issue, the issue that I run into the most at this point, and I think you guys will run into immediately. It's learning how to talk to no one. Yeah, the biggest issue is finding a way to talk to yourself, essentially, because one of the things is whenever someone pops in, you don't want to be the guy that's just sitting there blank-faced playing a video game, but those people might see you and go, I don't really want to watch this, because you won't know when they pop in. So for a while, I have to sort of engage no one. You have to engage yourself. So it becomes one of those things where you really talk to yourself and you start engaging in interesting ways, or you start talking about the game, you start talking about your day. You just have to kind of keep rattling until hopefully someone pops in and says, hi, how you doing? Because if they come into the chat and you're not saying anything and you're not doing anything, they may not even want to talk to you. But if they pop in and you're having an engaging conversation with yourself, yeah, that might pull them in a little bit. Those are my top 5 things new Twitch streamers need an aptitude for. Now, thank you guys for watching. If you guys really liked the video and found it helpful, hit like, hit subscribe. Do me a favor, share it with your friends, especially if you know a buddy who might be interested. Now, this is Poor Man's Twitch, a Twitch stream for people with crappy rigs like mine that need help anywhere they can get.